I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I love drama. Not the kind between your mom and your auntie, but I'm talking about story-driven drama. Maybe it's the writer in me, but I feel like there is nothing better. Unless it's real-life drama with a wacky story like this Bitcoin Breakdancing Dad story. Now, I'm not too sure if you guys have heard about this story, but there was a TikToker named Maddie that came out recently wanting to start a series about funny trauma. Basically, stuff that happened to you in your life that you find funny and not super dramatic. And well, in her TikTok, she decided to talk about her dad, who apparently abandoned her at the age of 5. But I'll let Maddie tell that part.
My dad abandoned my family when I was 5 years old. That is a wife and 4 kids. He abandoned us and then pursued amateur breakdancing. And he got really good. This guy wouldn't pay my medical bills. There was no split custody or anything. Like, he just left 4 kids to do that. He may not have paid for some of my medical bills growing up, but he did give me this breakdancing merchandise.
So Maddie says that she was abandoned as a child for her dad, who went on to become a pretty good amateur breakdancer. And I feel like I probably saw this guy a few years back because of all of these random viral clips. She also says in her videos that, yeah, he just basically wasn't around. He wasn't paying her medical bills or anything of those sorts. Like, he barely came around for her birthday. He would forget it. So basically kind of trashing him when it was supposed to be a funny story. But again, she said funny trauma. She's just giving details to her story. And what's interesting about this is it seems like a lot of people are like, wow, I can't believe your dad would do that. It was crazy. Obviously taking Maddie's side, which honestly makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to defend a dad that abandons 4 children, especially to go on to be a viral breakdancing star. That is the funniest part of the story because it's so random and I absolutely love it. But still, you could have done that and still taken care of your kids. Well, this is where the story gets good because Breakdancing Dad actually made a response video. It's 10 minutes long, but I'm going to show you some of the main parts of it. But this dude was kind of coming out and clearing his name, and I have to say, he's kind of likable.
I get my coffee, I sit down, I open my computer, and what am I greeted with? Well, hundreds of comments calling me a deadbeat dad, a child abandoner, and all manner of other insults. So I think, what's this all about?
First of all, I gotta say, like, I feel like this dude is gonna read me a storybook on, like, PBS. Like, he's ready to open up the book and be like, okay, children, let's find out what Filbert was up today. If he wasn't wearing that obnoxious Bitcoin shirt, I think I would be like, yeah, I'm taking this guy's side immediately.
Okay, in many ways I love this video. And of course, I love my daughter Maddie. And we get along great, at least I think we do. But a few corrections are in order, or at least a few things that need to be put in context. First, I can see that as a 5-year-old, Maddie would see her dad as having abandoned the family. One day I was living there, the next day I wasn't. And that will look like abandonment to a child.
You gotta love that Ben just got this wholesome vibe to him. I mean, he's over here being like, oh man, shucks, my daughter's talking crap about me, but you know what? I still love her. She's the greatest thing. And you know what? She was only 5, so it makes sense. And like, it's just so wholesome. And he's just like breaking it down. And yeah, he comes up with the receipts when he starts going through her video, like kind of dissecting it, kind of like I would on a YouTube video. So I think that's kind of funny. But then he drops some of the craziest information that I was not expecting from this story.
Now, about not paying medical bills. That's just not correct. Here was the financial arrangement of the divorce. Maddie's mom, my ex-wife, got $2 million at the get-go, out of the gate, a lump sum payment. Plus, I was paying her $18,000 per month in child support and alimony. This was later reduced to $12,000 per month. And of course, I paid health insurance and out-of-pocket medical costs. I also put $600,000 into the kids' college fund. In all, I paid out about $5 million to my ex-wife to cover costs for her and the kids. And this is in 2005 dollars. So add 50% to account for inflation.
Excuse me? Okay, I wasn't expecting Bitcoin Dad to be freaking loaded, and he does mention that this was in the early 2000s, so it's not Bitcoin money. This dude was loaded a long time ago, and depending on if he got in on Bitcoin really early, bro is probably filthy loaded. This was just like blowing my mind as I was reading this, because at first, I'm on Maddie's side, right? Like, you hear Maddie's story, and you're just like, okay, this is, it sucks. You know, she had a deadbeat dad or whatever, but it's kind of funny that he breakdances. Then the deadbeat dad shows up, and he's all like, no, I gave her mother $2 million, was paying her $18,000 a month for child support and alimony, and then he says basically over the course of the time paid $5 million. So I'm just gonna tell you out there, for anybody that might be rich watching this, $5 million will 100% take care of a family. Trust me, okay? A lot of people live on way less. So at this point, when you hear all this information, you're like, what the hell's Maddie talking about? Because $5 million, like, what? To be fair, even Ben clarifies that Maddie never called him a deadbeat dad. She just used the word abandon. But he read a lot of the comments, and he, in this video too, he does read a lot of the bad comments. And so a lot of people were calling him a deadbeat. But I just think, again, it's wholesome. Like, he's even bringing in, like, well, she technically didn't say that, y'all. Like, he's still trying to protect his daughter while giving a response, which I think is just, it's the best way you can handle something to try to clear your name, in all honesty. Now, Ben here does go on to say that he really enjoyed Maddie's video because it is true from her perspective, which I think is a really interesting way to kind of attack this whole like family drama, because she's telling her truth, right? Even though it might not be the actual truth, that is how she lived it, which I kind of think shows a lot of character, personally, just from the outside looking in. I don't know Ben, I don't know Maddie. They could be both amazing people, they could both be terrible people. I can only go off of what I see. But he also talks about how Maddie is working in Hollywood and stuff like that, and she's trying to be a screenwriter, and saying that this could make a really good movie, which I feel like there would be a studio out there that would want to jump on this drama and be like, yo, write it, let's do it, you know, we'll give you a couple $1 million to make the story or whatever, which might be pretty funny. So that was pretty much it from Ben's perspective, is that he was just kind of being like, that wasn't true, like, I didn't abandon my children, I paid money for them, I would live down the street, all this kind of jazz. And you'd think it would end there, right? Ben trying to clear his name, Maddie made a funny trauma thing. Well, it doesn't, ladies and gentlemen, because Maddie had a response.
But I know my dad posted like a 10-minute video or whatever being like, you know, my daughter's lying. We have a great relationship. I have a great relationship with all my kids. That's just objectively not true. Like, guys, we're all freaking out about this in my family group chat right now. We're being like, he's so unhinged and delusional. We don't know if he actually believes his own narrative or if he's lying on purpose, but he's just like a weird guy. Yeah, he said he lived down the street from us. That's not true. Or like if he did, it was only for a few months maybe. But actually for most of my childhood, he lived in Florida with his new wife. Like basically like, I don't want to get into this. Like, again, like my video was basically like sanitizing the situation and like poking fun at the lightest parts of that childhood trauma. But obviously in real life, it was a lot more like complicated and traumatic, and it was really hard. He left us, immediately married another woman. We didn't hear from him for years. And then he would visit every few months and we'd go out to dinner. But like, he truly had no hand in raising us at all. We don't speak with any sort of regularity. He doesn't know when my birthday is. Like, as you guys saw in the video I posted, he got it wrong. He gave us some money growing up. I honestly don't know the nitty gritty of the financial situation. I really, really don't. This guy was a completely absent father. He's like, I was just a bike ride away from those kids. And it's like, not once did any of us ever take a bike ride to his house. I don't think I've ever been in his house ever. At the end of the day, it doesn't have a huge effect on me. It's just kind of a bummer for my family. And we're all kind of looking at this and looking at his response. And we're just like, this is crazy. If this is actually his narrative, it's like delusional.
So Maddie comes with the fire, saying that her father is delusional, that he wasn't around. Now, there are certain things that she doesn't respond to directly. When he talks about the money, she was like, I don't know anything about the finances, like, I'm being honest with you. So that's fair. I mean, she was 5 when this happened, right? So she obviously is not going to know any of that, and she's just viewing it as, he left. He was not in my life. He's kind of just out there, and like, I cannot believe that he's saying this. She also kind of talks about how she did mention stuff about medical stuff and he didn't pay. So like, when you hear all of it, you're just like, okay, at this point, we've gotten 2 point of views and it's just responding after. And I'm like, you kind of need to respond to things with a little bit more detail, because your dad brought the fire. And you're not really bringing much to the table here. As I'm seeing this whole story play out, I'm trying to think as a kid as well, that I do remember, like, if I don't want to say traumatic because I think people use the word trauma way too much in conversation. But I do think things that like I remember the most is, yeah, you do remember when your dad or mom didn't show up to your baseball game or missed something really important that you thought was really important in your life as a child, right? Like those things hurt the most. Like that is totally fair. I'm a kid that grew up with my middle child syndrome, so I thought my parents always loved my brother and sister way more, so everything was dramatic for me when I was a little kid, right? But it wasn't the truth. Like, I remember my mom being very sweet and taking me out of school and having just me days. Like, that's just kind of how it is, right? And so, like, when you look back on it, you're like, no, it wasn't that bad. I don't know if it's the same thing for Maddie. I don't know if Maddie just remembers my dad wasn't there, so that's it. And yeah, I think it was just such an interesting perspective. And she's flat out saying her dad is delusional if he thinks this is the narrative. And of course, I mean, he's a Bitcoin guy, and there's going to be a little bit more revealed about him in the future. But I was just like, oh shit, she's coming out saying that he's kind of crazy. So now I'm just like, I mean, but he brought the receipts, and I'm like, I feel like that, I mean, I don't know. He's in his 60s. I don't know if he's really good with AI. Well, Ben wasn't having any of it, and he comes back with a 30-minute video defending himself, and holy shit, he brought some fire. Before we continue this wacky drama, I'm gonna need you to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to ensure that you continue getting insane content like this in the future. So Ben goes on to show like a lot of footage of like family vacations and him just spending time with his kids. And I'm blurring that because, I mean, his kids were kids. I'm not going to share that without permission, but he does show graduation photos when they're older. Maddie, I'm going to need some clarification on what you mean by abandon or what you think it means, because your dad's showing up with a lot of footage of you growing up and your siblings being at graduations and stuff. And I just don't, I mean, I have some friends that have some absent fathers or fathers that they don't even know, and they ain't got none of that kind of footage. Some more stuff that Ben says in this video is he talks about how he did ask Maddie to take down the video because it was going viral. A lot of people were seeing it, and he thought it could hurt his business. He does mention that he has an advertising business, and so, you know, he didn't want to lose clients over it. She didn't want to take it down because it went viral, which totally understandable. But it also kind of paints Maddie in a bad light that she's all like, no, I'm picking views over the chance of hurting your business. And at the same time, if we're looking at this from Maddie's perspective, she doesn't think that her dad is a good dude, so why would she listen to him now, right? And that's why we've gotten these response videos from Ben to kind of clear his name just in case he can talk to his advertisers or anybody that's coming after him. So it makes sense from his perspective. He also goes on to say that he thinks, or I should say maybe he assumes, that the reason why Maddie feels this way is because she's been brainwashed by his ex-wife. And so I think a lot of people understand this ability if you have separated parents. Sometimes one of the parents talks shit about the other parent, and it's never good for the children involved. So that could be what's happening here, adds more plausibility to the story. For the most part, Ben is just kind of hitting him out of the park and making sense until he says this.
But also, she had broken up with her boyfriend around this time. She said she needed to go to grief counseling and therapy. She and her mom wanted me to pay for that too. That's where I drew the line. I consider medical care to be like when you're sick or have a broken leg or need stitches, got into a car accident, stuff like that. Not grief counseling over a breakup with a boyfriend. Also, counseling and psychology today are completely dominated by far-left female wokesters. Almost no males in that profession. So no doubt her therapist would be telling her the problem was her dad. The last thing I wanted to pay for was more brainwashing against her dad and against men in general. So I guess these were the medical bills that I was refusing to cover.
He was right there. He was so likable, everybody. And then he had to go into the whole woke analogies and all that shit, and like therapy is woke and all this kind of jazz. Look, if you watch the whole video, Ben is very old school mindset. He's in his 60s. He's like 66 or some shit right now. A lot of people that age are very set in their ways, very hard to change their mindset. Doesn't mean that they can't change, but it's just like, doesn't mean it's okay either. But I'm like, bro, come on. And then, he's bringing the receipts. I'm like, I'm here for you, Ben. And then he drops the woke shit. Like, oh, why is it always gotta be people like that, man? I should also point out there is some other kind of like misogynistic kind of comments he makes. And look, I think there are stereotypes kind of saying. He mentions how boys are easier to raise. They get into a lot of shenanigans, but they don't really deal with all of the like emotional crap that you go through. I think that's a freaking lie. I think we're kind of seeing that a lot of men should be dealing with their emotions because they hold them in. It gets them into those troubles. And he also kind of says that women operate differently. They try to find meaning when there is no meaning there, or something like that. Like, so just really like, come on, Ben. Basically common traits you would find from people that hate the woke left and all of that kind of jazz. And yeah, but it continues.
I also blame the education system. Yes, Maddie was brainwashed against her dad by her mom for 19 years. That's true. And this happens in most divorces. In a divorce situation, the mother is the one who really ends up raising the kids. It's then the dad's job to provide the money. That's how it works. Meanwhile, the mom, the ex-wife, is with the kids almost the entire time, dumping all over the dad, the ex-husband. And that's the way it works in every divorce that I've seen. But now there's this other element. The kids are also being brainwashed into leftist woke insanity by the schools, starting in kindergarten, all the way through college and grad school. Girls in school are taught to hate men, to see themselves as victims of the so-called patriarchy. And they're taught that there are many genders. And why not consider changing your gender? Kindergartners are taught this today. The schools should be teaching reading, writing, math, science, and marketable skills that will actually help the kids succeed in life. There is almost nothing of value being taught in the schools at any level nowadays. It's all political indoctrination into woke ideology. So here's my advice. Don't send your kids to college or even to school at all.
So if it isn't clear yet, Ben really likes to live in one section of the internet, which is kind of wild because he comes off as such a likable dude, right? But a lot of the shit he's just saying is just batshit crazy, which maybe that's what you need to be to walk around in a bunch of Bitcoin shirts. Anyways, let's get back to the story because Ben went off on a tangent. This was supposed to be about him and Maddie. But anyways, he showed all of these text messages between him and Maddie talking about birthdays and just like how you doing and having emojis, all that kind of stuff. So it kind of hits at, again, Maddie not really kind of giving us a lot of details. And you would think it would end there, right? You think that would be the end of it. Nope. Because Maddie responded.
Okay, I'm gonna say one more thing about the Breakdancing Dad saga. This is not a clapback video. This is not beef. It's something that I have loved that people are not talking about, is that there's a sort of Mandela effect happening in the collective consciousness of the internet right now. In his original video and like in his tweet, my dad had posted being like, my daughter is a famous influencer. She has millions of followers. She's a big social media influencer. And now everybody thinks that that's true. Like nobody fact checked that. Like nobody, like everyone's rolling with it. Like every news source, every tweet, like I'm a small creator. I'm not even monetizing my account yet because I'm too small. I have 70,000, like love you guys, but like I definitely don't have millions. And all over his like social media, he's like, my daughter, she's a successful Hollywood screenwriter at Netflix. Don't know where he got any of that. Obviously, I've told him in the past that I am an assistant. Would love that though. Like he's manifesting that for me. But now like everybody's just like talking like that's the truth. Like Candace Owens just posted a whole like long podcast. Anyway, you slice it, whether you like me, whether you hate me, whether you think I'm lying, whether you think my dad's lying. Maddie Hart, big, famous girl, famous, rich, famous Hollywood writers.
Basically in that video, Maddie just kind of calls out how like other right-wing people kind of like started talking about this whole story, kind of saying like, oh, she's this big influencer or whatever, and saying how she has millions of followers when she doesn't. Her TikTok literally at the time of recording this has like 77,000. So yeah, she doesn't have millions of followers. But again, two things here. In regards to the followers, you're dealing with a lot of boomers, it seems like, that are kind of talking about this situation. I mean, her dad's 66, and I think they equate followers to views. I don't know, that's kind of my vibe, because apparently, you know, her dad was saying that she gets millions of viewers on her videos. Maybe that's where the lines are getting crossed, instead of like, because it is a very easy fact check, but she is telling the truth there. None of these organizations are running and fact checking this stuff, but I think it's also because Fox News has no problem bending the truth on certain things. But it looks so much more titillating to see, ooh, 1 million followers. It just looks nice, right? Like, oh, 77,000 followers. Like, that's not a fucking great headline. So I think that's why you're seeing all these people just kind of like look the other way when it comes to that. Also, Maddie used the term Mandela effect. I don't know if that really applies here. Definition wise, I guess it does, but I feel like when it comes to the Mandela effect, the collective conscience, it's usually something that happened a long time ago, like the Bernstein Bears, or what else? Like a lot of, I think it's also, it's made after Nelson Mandela, right? Like a lot of people think, I forget the original thing, that he like died, but he wasn't dead. So like everybody's like, I thought he died, and like that was a collective conscience. That's why they call it the Mandela effect. And so like there's just a lot of, I don't think that applies in real time. I think it's just misinformation. So I don't really think that's a Mandela effect. Let me know in the comments if you think that that kind of applies here. I think it's just a lot of people not fact checking. But when it comes to the Bernstein Bears and all that stuff, everybody kind of like, they remember it that way. This is just shitty fact checking. Maddie did say in her last video, this isn't a clapback video or anything like that, but she dropped 3 videos. And in the 2 response videos, she doesn't respond to a lot of stuff that her dad's saying. Her dad brought receipts. And so, like, it's like, okay, he seems like he's telling the truth. And where Maddie doesn't really clear her name a lot, doesn't seem like she cares at the end of her video, because she's probably loving the attention from it, right? I mean, come on, a lot of people do that. I'm not going to shit on her here. I don't even have a problem with her making this series because, yo, I think it's hilarious. But I will say, if she ever has to clear her name in the future of anything else that might go viral, she's going to need a PR team because she does not know how to handle it very well, because she could have easily responded to stuff. Like, you could clear up if those photos and the videos and everything were fake that her dad brought, but she doesn't talk about it. And so, like, it's things like that that I'm like, what's really going on here? I don't know. This whole thing is weird. I have to say, Ben brought a lot of good points to the table. He did also mention that he thought, like, his daughters and wife didn't like his new wife. So, like, they banded together not to, like, go visit him and stuff like that. There's that idea, which I've seen that. I've read a lot of stories like that. I don't know if it's true. Let me know if you are somebody that had to live with 2 separated parents, if that's the case. But I don't know. I thought the story was super random. I could not believe a family was airing all their dirty laundry just on the internet, which is wild. And then when you come to Ben, looks like a super likable dude, and then just pivots to, you know, you find out that he is like a woke hater. He's somebody that, I mean, I don't want to say that he's on the right, but he does say that him and Maddie have different political views. That's another reason why there could be all this drama. I would assume Maddie's on the left. Ben's probably on the right. I mean, he is out here applauding Elon Musk for keeping the free speech on Twitter. Although Elon doesn't allow you to freaking correct his, you know, tweets anymore, if I'm not mistaken. And kind of like, you know, he just so happens to ban a lot of people that talk bad about him. So I don't know how much about that free speech is going on there, Ben. But I know the most important question you're asking is, can Ben still breakdance? And well, he's got an answer for you. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to talk about this wacky family drama. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments section. Check out my latest video in case you missed it. But as always, don't forget your daily dose of juice. Bam!